A super exciting sneak peek was dropped during the 8th anniversary of Pokemon Go in the annual anniversary poster, which has been notorious for teasing hype new Pokemon like Mega Rayquaza in 2023, Shaman in 2022, Mega Mewtwo in 2021, and Mega Lucario in 2020, which we're finally getting this month, 4 years later. Well, in the 2024 edition, smack dab in the middle of the intense battle scene, we can see a huge Dynamax Wartortle towering over everyone else. This is obviously exciting because this means a brand new mechanic potentially coming soon to Pokemon Go. Talking about Dynamax and Gigantamax, which were features released during the Sword and Shield era in the main series Pokemon games only a few years ago. Now, what is this mechanic and how does it work? Let's start with Dynamax. This essentially turns a Pokemon absolutely massive on screen and gives it a sizable buff to just its HP for 3 turns. Also, the move the Pokemon can use becomes universal across typings, which is called a max move. Think of it basically as just like a HP buff that only lasts a certain amount of time, plus a new move. And it's important to note that every Pokemon in the Sword and Shield game can Dynamax. Gigantamax is when it gets interesting. This is essentially a variation of Dynamax that is limited to specific Pokemon. Gigantamax also gives an HP buff, but there's one key difference: the moves. Gigantamax Pokemon get access to what's called G-Max moves, which are powerful moves with really strong secondary effects. Like, for example, the G-Max move Vine Lash on Venusaur inflicts damage for 4 turns on non-grass type Pokemon. So basically the Pokemon looks huge and kind of funny, gets an HP buff, and gets access to powerful moves. The big question here is, how would this work in Pokemon Go? And the bigger question is, how can you get yourself one of these Shiny Luck merch items? You know what I'm saying? If you're watching this video, the merch has already released. The link is in the description to get it. It's probably sold out. If it's not, you're lucky. Hop in there and grab some yourself. We've got hoodies, t-shirts, hats, and most excitingly, mystery pin booster packs that feature 1 of 4 pins inside, which includes a super rare rainbow shiny pin, which has a lower odd of dropping, kind of like finding a shiny. So link in the description for the merch. Shiny luck, it's finally here. Okay, so Dynamax and Gigantamax in Pokemon Go. How would it work and which Pokemon would have access to it? Theoretically speaking, every single Pokemon should have access to the ability to Dynamax. How it's gonna work though is a complete mystery. But from what we've seen with systems like Megas, Primals, and Adventure effects, I'm sure Dynamax Pokemon will have some sort of like energy system and a timer. My best guess is Max Raid Battles, which funny enough was a feature brought to the main series Pokemon games that was influenced by the raid feature in Pokemon Go. In Pokemon Sword and Shield, you would find a den with a huge beam of red light shooting into the sky above it, which would spawn around the map and are battled alongside other players, just like raids in Pokemon Go. So for Dynamax Pokemon to be released in a brand new Max Raid feature would make perfect sense. Also, it's Niantic. They're not gonna release a new feature that they can't make a ton of money off of. But battling Dynamax Pokemon is just the first part. The second part is actually Dynamaxing your Pokemon. So how does this work? In the main series games, you get a Dynamax band once you reach a certain part in the story. Then you just press the Dynamax button when you're in battle with that Pokemon and voila, it's Dynamaxed. So in Go, how would that work? To be honest, I don't think we see this Dynamax band item released in game. If it does come to the game, I assume it's gonna be like a cosmetic item that you could purchase in the shop, not anything with like actual functionality. What I think will replace this item is called Dynamax Energy. Plain and simple, just like the Mega Evolution system, I'm predicting Dynamax Energy coming from defeating max raids. This energy will obviously be specific to the Pokemon that you defeat. For example, if you defeat a Dynamaxed Wartortle, you will get Wartortle or Blastoise or Squirtle, whatever, Dynamax energy that you could then use to Dynamax your Squirtle, Wartortle, or Blastoise. But unlike Megas and Mega Energy, every single Pokemon has access to the ability to Dynamax, which means as long as a Pokemon comes to Dynamax raids and you can get the Dynamax energy, you can Dynamax it. Doesn't matter what Pokemon it is. So that's pretty exciting about Dynamax Pokemon. What about Gigantamax? In the main series games, only specific Pokemon can Gigantamax, and you can only Gigantamax a Pokemon caught in a max raid in a Gigantamax den, not from the wild. And you have to find max mushrooms and feed them to the Pokemon, then you can technically Gigantamax them. It's a bit of a process. So in Pokemon Go, I think all of this is gonna be pretty much completely cut out. The whole thing being simplified. I think there's gonna be max raid battles for Dynamax Pokemon and then one specifically for Gigantamax Pokemon. Although I do think they will keep the mechanic of you having to defeat a Gigantamax raid and catch a Pokemon from that raid to be able to Gigantamax it. Like, for example, if you have a Charizard that you've had for years, you won't be able to Gigantamax that one. You'll have to raid a Gigantamax Charizard raid and catch the Charizard from that raid, and that one you can Gigantamax. I think that they're gonna do that whole system. That would make sense to me, and it would make sense to Niantic because you have to do more raids, whatever. Plus, I'm sure there's gonna be an energy system as well for the Gigantamax Pokemon, to where you will have to raid a certain amount of raids before you get enough energy to be able to Gigantamax. So long story short, there's gonna be raids, you're probably gonna have to go out and raid them just like with Mega Pokemon. So basically the Mega system, but make it Gigantamax or Dynamax. Now, once this feature in these Pokemon do eventually come to the game, how will they be? Will they even be worth raiding? Generally speaking, the Dynamax Pokemon will all just be like better versions of themselves. So Dynamax Tyranitar will be better than regular Tyranitar because it's gonna have more HP and a better move. And the Dynamax Pokemon will be like really good specifically in PvP and in raid battles. Specifically because of the secondary effect the moves have. And hopefully these all come to the game. Here's what they are. And again, remember, like all normal type Pokemon will get the move Max Strike, which will lower the opponent's speed. The Dragon type move Max Wyrmwind will lower your opponent's attack. The Bug move Max Flutterby will lower your opponent's special attack. Max Phantasm, lower your opponent's defense. Max Darkness, lower your opponent's special defense. Here's what will help in raids. Max Airstream will bring your allies' speed up. Max Knuckle will bring up your friend's attack. Max Ooze will bring up your special attack, you and your friends. Max Steel Spike will bring up your friend's defense, and Max Quake will bring up your friend's special defense. Friends being other people in the raid with you, potentially. And then these effects will actually change the weather in the raid, which might make the moves that you're using even more effective. Max Flare sets it to sunlight weather, Max Geyser to rain, Hailstorm to hail, Rockfall to sandstorm weather, Lightning to electric terrain, Mindstorm to physic terrain, Overgrowth to grassy terrain, and Starfall to misty terrain. So there's definitely gonna be a strategic way to use these Pokemon and their moves, assuming they all come to the game with their statuses and like effects, which just might not happen at all. But if they do come to the game and these features come into the game, for sure worth getting and for sure worth using in PvP and in raids. General rule of thumb though is like, if a meta-relevant Pokemon comes to Dynamax raids, it's probably worth getting because the Dynamax version will be better statistically, and if it has the status effects, it's gonna be even better. Where the real difference between Pokemon will be made is with the Gigantamax Pokemon. And remember, only specific Pokemon have the ability to Gigantamax, and that list includes Venusaur, Charizard, Blastoise, Butterfree, Pikachu, Meowth, Machamp, Gengar, Kingler, Lapras, Eevee, Snorlax, Garbodor, Melmetal, Rillaboom, Cinderace, Inteleon, Corviknight, Orbeetle, Dreadnought, Colossal, Flapple, Appleton, Sandaconda, Toxtricity, Centriskorch, Hatterene, Grimmsnarl, Alcremie, Copperjump, Duraludon, Urshifu, Single Strike, and Urshifu Rapid Strike, and they all look insane. And each of these Pokemon also have a really solid effect on their G-Max move too, which might bring some really cool things to Pokemon Go. And there's two ways that I see these special effects being implemented into the game. The first way would be like with the adventure effects, like with Origin Form Dialga and Palkia, Dawnwing's Necrozma, Duskmane Solgaleo, where basically you would spend a certain amount of Stardust candy, or Stardust and energy, or just energy, and for a certain amount of time, your Gigantamax Pokemon would have a certain effect. Or like in the main series games, once you use a certain move, it would activate the effects. Now let me go over what the best potential Gigantamax Pokemon would be if they came to Pokemon Go, and how the effects from them could translate to features in Pokemon Go, like adventure effects and whatnot. For the best normal type, Snorlax. Gigantamax Snorlax looks insane, and its move is called G-Max Replenish, which gives it a 50% chance to restore a consumed berry. This is really cool because it means an item of yours could be brought back into your inventory after being used, and Pokemon Go could implement a really cool feature of this. They can either do the same thing to where you have an opportunity of getting a berry back into your inventory, or something super cool like a 10% chance of returning the remote raid pass or raid pass you used to enter into the Gigantamax raid. That'd be sick. For the Dragon-type Pokemon, Gigantamax Duraludon. Its signature move is G-Max Depple, which removes 2 PP from your opponent's last move. A cool way to implement this into Pokemon Go is by disabling an opponent's last used charge move for maybe a couple of turns or for the rest of the battle in PvP. This would be super duper OP and would need to be balanced, but like, would be pretty cool. For the bug type, Gigantamax Butterfree. Its move is G-Max Befuddle, and the effect inflicts poison, paralysis, or sleep on the Pokemon it's battling. So imagine you use this in Pokemon Go and the enemy Pokemon you're attacking, like, stops attacking you for 10 seconds. Whether it's Team Rocket, or it's a raid, or it's PvP, that would be super interesting. For the ghost type, we have Gigantamax Gengar, which has G-Max Terror as the move. This prevents your opponent from switching Pokemons, and the same could happen in Pokemon Go in PvP, which would be be crazy. Like imagine you just use this and the swap, you can't swap. There's no swapping. That'd be nuts. For the dark type, we have Gigantamax Single Strike Urshifu with Gmax 1 below as the move. The effect allows the move to hit through any kind of protecting move or shield, which in Pokemon Go would basically translate to shields being useless. Like you could attack through a shield in PvP. Also, this Pokemon hasn't been released in game yet, and it technically comes from Kubfu. So we could see some really interesting things and interesting releases for this Pokemon come out, hopefully with its Gigantamax raid boss, like maybe like you get it through a raid boss, or we get it through special research like we did with Cosmog, where you get like one Kubfu and you can choose what you want to evolve it to, because there's 2 different types of Urshifu. All right, moving over to the water type, which is Gigantamax Rapid Strike Urshifu, the other type. This is the Gmax move, Gmax Rapid Flow, and same for the effect. It attacks through pretty much any protecting move, even Max Guard, and it would work the same way in PvP. It would just be able to get through any shield. For the fire type, we have Gigantamax Charizard, of course, with the signature move Gmax Wildfire, which deals passive damage to non-fire type opponents. And it can do the same thing in Pokemon Go, potentially, basically just doing damage every single turn or throughout the raid battle to anything that's not a fire type Pokemon, just slow passive burn damage. For the grass type, we have Gigantamax Venusaur with the Gmax Vine Lash move, which deals passive damage to non-grass type Pokemon. Same thing in Pokemon Go, it would just deal passive damage to non-grass types in the raid or in PvP. For the flying types, we have Gigantamax Corviknight with Gmax Wind Rage. In the main series games, it removes field effects like screens, hazards, and terrains. In Pokemon Go, obviously we don't have those, so who knows what the special effect would actually do, but this would be the best Gigantamax flying type. It also hasn't been released yet in Pokemon Go, so we do need that. For the fighting types, we have Machamp with the Gmax move Chai Strike, which increases its critical hit chance. So maybe in Pokemon Go, it just allows Machamp to do a critical hit. We don't have crits, do we? Oh, we have crits. Better shot at a crit chance, or just does more damage on the next hit in PvP, or in raids. For the poison type, we have Gigantamax Garbodor with Gmax Malodor, which inflicts poison that does like passive damage. So it can do the same thing in Pokemon Go, can poison your opponent or poison the raid boss and do passive damage as well as the active damage that you're doing. For the steel type, we have Gigantamax Melmetal with the Gmax move Meltdown, which prevents your opponent from using the same move twice in a row. In PvP in Pokemon Go, this would be absolutely insane. Imagine you use a charge attack and you only have one charge attack and you just can't use it again. That'd be broken. Melmetal is already very good in Pokemon Go PvP. This would make it even better. For the ground types, we would have Gigantamax Sandaconda with the signature move Gmax Sandblast, which inflicts Sand Tomb, and Sand Tomb inflicts 1/16 of the target's maximum HP as damage for 2 to 5 turns upon use, in addition to damage dealt when it's used. It also traps the target, preventing switching and escaping. So this can do pretty much the same thing in Pokemon Go, to where like it just inflicts a bunch of damage over time passively as time is happening, and also prevents people in PvP from switching Pokemon, which would be crazy. For the ice type, we have Gigantamax Lapras with the Gmax move Resonance. This sets Aurora Veil, and Aurora Veil reduces the damage done to the user by physical and special moves for 5 turns by half. In Pokemon Go, this could basically do something similar, where for the next 5 attacks, it reduces the amount of damage that you take from whoever you're battling by like 50%, which would be super OP in PvP, but it'd be cool. For the electro types, we have Gigantamax Toxtricity with Gmax Stun Shock, which inflicts poison or paralysis. Same thing in Pokemon Go, it would either poison the Pokemon for passive damage, or it would paralyze it so that you could just like attack without it fighting back. Oh, look, it's a cat. Hello, cat. For the rock type, we have Gigantamax Colossal. This is the signature move Gmax Volcalith, which deals passive damage to non-rock type Pokemon. And in Pokemon Go, same as the main series games. For the Psychic, we have Gigantamax Orbeetle with the Gmax move Gmax Gravitas. This move sets gravity effects, which increases the accuracy of all Pokemon and causes all Pokemon that are flying types or have Levitate to be vulnerable to ground type attacks. So maybe in Pokemon Go, this just like causes flying type Pokemon to be less useful or do less damage. I don't know. And then for the Fairy type, we have the Gigantamax Alcremie with Gmax Finale, which heals allies for 1/6 of their max HP. This would be insane in Pokemon Go, especially in raids and even in PvP, where when you use this move, it heals everyone in the raid, which helps you if you're battling with lower leveled friends, or it heals all the Pokemon in your party in PvP, which can bring back some health, which is much needed and very useful. Now, what we're all wondering, when is this coming to the game? As we've learned the hard way, the anniversary poster doesn't really mean anything. Again, Mega Lucario took 4 years after being teased in the poster to finally be released, and Mega Pokemon in general took a while as well. So hopefully we can expect this feature later on this year, if not up to 4 years from now, I guess. But if you wanna know when it happens first, make sure to subscribe. We're almost at 3 million, and grab your Shiny Like merch, link in the description. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.